Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Off the Cuff with me, Dustin Heisey. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Again, we are on the they're firing some cannons back there. We are on the battlefield of Gettysburg here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Today we're standing on Culps Hill. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened up here. We're going to show you some of the landmarks, some of the monuments, and some rock carvings. It's going to be a good time. So stick around, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Hey, Lisa, thanks for jumping in. It's good to see you, as always. Today, guys, we are joined with my good friend, Lee McGinnis here. He's going to give us a little bit of the history lesson from up here at Culps Hill. He is way more knowledgeable of Culps Hill than I am. I'm decent, but this guy knows what he's talking about. So we're going to turn it over to him, and we're going to let him give us a little walkthrough. And then we're going to show you some of the cool things that, really neat things that like coming to Gettysburg. It's like getting off the beaten path. It's kind of like the fun stuff, where you don't see it unless you get out of the vehicle and park and get out and walk. So we're going to show you some of that stuff today too. So we're going to get started. So I'm going to flip this around and, again, I'm on my phone. So in Gettysburg, so if I get a little choppy, let me know in the comment section here. Also checking right now, just let me know. Can you guys hear me okay? Does it sound like it's good? Am I choppy? Let me know how we're doing. And if I freeze up, let me know. And I'll do my best to get it back. But we're going to switch this around. It's never easy to do this on the phone, so just bear with us. Okay, and we turned right into my lovely wife. Okay, so all right, Lee, take us through Culps Hill, man, and let's let folks know what happened up here. And while you're talking, I'm just going to give them a little bit of a panoramic view.
Okay, so pretty much what you got here is two hills. We're standing pretty much on the slope of the upper hill, and you're pointing down towards what was known as the lower hill. And behind us would be the Baltimore Pike, which would have been the avenue that the Union Army has their supply base. So this spot is really important. So they will have the Union 12th Corps will be assigned to this position. And early in the morning of July 2nd, Green's Brigade will construct the earthworks similar to what you see now, but these are actually recreated from the 1930s, 1920s during the Civilian Conservation Corps era. So this was a very vital aspect of the Battle of Gettysburg, and you would have fighting start here early on the 2nd. There would be some troops, some Confederates that would come up and try and come around, but they will get captured almost immediately by members of an Indiana regiment, and the line will be lengthened. Now, what's going to happen is, in the afternoon, everyone's favorite Corps commander, Dan Sickles, decides to move out to the Peach Orchard, which causes a break in the line. So when his corps is crushed, there's an immediate need for reinforcements. So Meade will order all of the 12th Corps to go and assist with that crisis. Slocum, the Corps commander, will rearrange the orders and have so that he leaves a brigade with Green's Brigade stretched out to cover the entire length of the line, probably like one or two guys every 3 feet or so. And what's going to happen is, in the evening, Johnson's division will attack this position, and they will take the lower hill behind us, but they will be unable to occupy this part of the hill. So in the evening, when the troops come back, the guys that try to file in onto the lower hill, now there's Confederates in their earthworks. So there's going to be a fight early in the morning. There's going to be an artillery barrage at first light, which is probably going to be 5:30, 6 o'clock. and the fighting will rage here for 7 hours.
And that's like the longest sustained fighting in the entire Battle of Gettysburg.
Yes, the fight here is going to be very intense. There's going to be troops stationed behind the woods here to clean their muskets and refill their ammo boxes.
So reserves right back here, right across the street, pretty much in the wood line.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little hollow back there, so they're going to be in the works, firing until they run out of ammo, and then they're going to switch so that most of the wounds are going to be in the head to shoulder region,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only going to be when you're coming in or out of the actual earthworks.
Right. So, Monica, if you can bring your phone over here, let's show these guys the picture of what these works looked like in 1863. So, Matthew Brady actually came and took photographs of these earthworks. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, if you guys can see, these earthworks are actually very imposing. I mean, I don't know, because there's a lot of overgrowth. If you can see that the ground here, it goes up. They've built a ledge for protection. So soldiers lined in this area all the way up the hill. Up there, you see the 150th New York monument. It's a large monument. It's a large monument. It's beautiful. A photograph was taken directly in front of that monument, looking in our direction. And I'm going to show you that photograph. Hopefully, you can see it. This is what it looked like. All right, let's try this in the shade. This is what it looked like. If you can see these earthworks, I'm not sure if it's focusing. Look how it was very built up, and you see those two guys sitting on that rock, and how deep and how thick the earthworks here were here. That photograph was taken right by that large tree up there, and the curvature in the earthworks is actually this curve right here, and this is where they fought. And I'd like to make a quick note too about something here, or at any battlefield you ever go to, Gettysburg, Antietam, Cold Harbor. It doesn't matter where you go. If there's a substantial amount of earthworks, the best thing that you can do as a visitor to any battlefield park is to please stay off of the earthworks. It's critically important that you preserve them, and the best way to do that is to not walk on them at all, ever. We're going to show you the little scooters that these guys run around in. Look at that. That's one way to tour Gettysburg. All right, so we're standing here at the 102nd and 78th New York Infantry Monument. This is 3rd Brigade Greens and 2nd Division is Geary's 12th Corps Slocum. So it's a lot of stuff. It gets confusing. So in July 1864, these two regiments were consolidated, mustered out July 1865. And then it talks a little bit about what happened here. This is the ground occupied during the battle by the 102nd and 78th New York. Skirmishers on ground in front. Colonel James C. Lane, he was wounded here, and Lewis R. Stegman was commanding. 10 were killed, 38 wounded, missing 11 for a total of 59 casualties. They occupied this part of the works. If you can see right here, those are flank markers. That marks the right flank of the 78th New York, and the left flank marker is over there. Actually, they kind of cross. There's two there. It's confusing. And then down further, we're gonna take a walk, and I'll turn it back over here to Lee a little bit. So, as we're heading down, who are we walking towards now?
We're going to be walking down here towards the 149th New York, which is also part of Green's Brigade. And the neat thing with that regiment is that it features a bas relief of the color bearer, whose last name was Lilly, and he would receive the Medal of Honor for attaching and fixing the flagpole, because with 6 hours of sustained combat, you can imagine the amount of bullets that are being thrown out in this general direction, and the flagstaff is going to be broken in half. So what he's going to do is he's going to take a pair of slabs from a cracker box and attach it to the pole and wrap it with leather so that he can, because the flagpole was the flags were the hallmark of the regiment, so that you could see where you guys were, and it was unit pride.
And you can see here on this relief, the soldiers are fighting overneath. That's a new word created by me. I'm going to charge everybody 25 cents if you ever say that. So over top of the earthworks, as you can see here, and you see that the fight is going on. And this is what Lee was just describing and him repairing the flag. This is a beautiful bas relief. One of the prettiest monuments actually here on the battlefield. 149th New York Infantry. They fought right here within the limits of their flank markers here on either side, and I can't show you because it's blocked by their monuments, but this is a huge flat rock. They had to build their works around the rock over here in front of it, and then probably piled stones, which are long gone at this point. But you're looking at down in the woods here, and in that corner, and in this particular area, is one of the heaviest, most condensed areas of Confederate casualties on this particular part of the field.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is you're looking down into kind of a swale. So the Union troops will, when they built the earthworks, they kind of planned ahead, like a worst case scenario. So what they did is they will build what's called a traverse. So you've got the lines coming down parallel to us, but then right as you get to the swale, they built a section perpendicular to the line so that just in case one side gets thrown back, you could fall back on that traverse and still have protection. So you've got a traverse down here in the swale. The Confederates will occupy the lower hill, which you can kind of see as the road kind of goes
through the trees. It goes up over the hill there.
Yep.
It's hard to see from this particular spot.
So there's going to be an attack on the right, and then going to try and come up this hill. But as you can see, I mean, even by today's standard, it's very thick. Now, they have done some immaculate work on clearing out the trees, so it wouldn't be as thick the underbrush wouldn't be as bad as it is today, because you would have livestock grazing. But for the most part, this is the most accurate representation that we've had in a long time for Culps Hill.
Right. So it's really nice because one of the I'll get you to hold this. Just one of the things about Culps Hill, coming to Gettysburg to interpret the battle, you really need to be able to see, what these guys were talking about when they wrote their records or their reports and things of that nature. So it became, really difficult over years because they stopped using the fields around here for cattle and grazing and sheep and whatever else that would keep all this underbrush down. And then all of a sudden, now you have saplings that are just growing, and it became a very thick forest. And recently, thanks to from what I was told, a single donor, a private donor, donated millions of dollars to have this all cleared out, paid for it for himself. So whoever that was, I thank you personally. But they gave us the best interpretation, as Lee said, of what you would have seen here in July of 1863. All right. So, by the way, this is Lee McGinnis, if you missed. Lee is a student of the Battle of Gettysburg. He has, I believe you have taken the guide exam, haven't you?
Several times.
So before we go, I want to show you something here. Is it that one or this one? Okay. So really cool. One of the things I really enjoyed about Gettysburg is the neat things that you can come and see. And it's going to be very hard to see, but I'm going to try to show you here. There are rock carvings. Now go ahead and put your shadow back there. That helped. Okay, there you go. See, soldiers came back and they carved their names in the rocks. Now, it's very hard to see right now. Unfortunately, I can't even tell you what it says. I used to know off the top of my head. I believe it says Warren.
Westerly, Rhode Island.
Westerly, okay. This is 1888, as you can see, or 83, 88. I think it's 88. And then here's JF something. So he came back and carved his name in the rock. And there's also another one right here. soldiers wanted to remember where they fought, and they came back. And again, because they wanted to remember where they were, they carved their names. Can you give me a shadow again, Lee? Maybe cast a shadow across, stand on top of the rock up there. See if you guys can come over this way. Stand like literally right on the peak. I don't know if you guys can see. This is a tough one. Okay, but there's an L, there's a W, and I can't really make it out. There's an FT here. If you guys can, hopefully you can see that. But again, this is just another like engraving from a soldier who fought here, who wanted to commemorate what he did here and remember that. So just some of the really cool things that you can do when you come here to Gettysburg. Okay, so we're going to continue walking on down. Hopefully, do we still have a decent connection? I hope we do. As we go down the hill, I might lose a little bit of signal. I'm trying to move a little bit slow so it doesn't boot us off. And there's a really cool story about the Zouave monument. Is it the Zouave or is it this one?
Well,
the time capsule.
I'm not sure about that.
That's that one. I'll talk about that when we get over here.
But speaking of bas relief, because it was one of the most popular forms of art at the time. And I just really love this relief because it's got a soldier with the debris of the battle, with the busted drum, busted rifle. It's just an absolute mess. And
canteen shattered.
And I believe he's at the position of secure arms, which was a symbolic position where you would go, like if you were walking through a cemetery.
Right. It's basically showing a show of respect, and basically like a sign of, it's all over. So, and as you can see on the bottom here, it does say it is over. And a feeling that was shared by many after the horrors that happened here on this battlefield. Keeping in mind that, things like when you pass through here and you drive by things like this massive boulder here, what you have to realize is this might just mean, hey, there's just a rock, and you don't really take into consideration what happened here. This boulder was used as cover, and you could almost see a multitude of soldiers taking refuge behind this boulder. And also keeping in mind that it was July of 1863. It was something like 93 degrees. It was really hot, and these guys had wool uniforms on. So a lot of times what they would do is they'd take sticks and blankets and go and cover themselves from the heat of the sun using boulders like this. So, I mean, did this happen here? We don't know for sure. Is it highly possible, maybe even likely? It probably is. So using, you have to kind of use your imagination when you come to Gettysburg and kind of picture, what could have happened here. These rocks are not just rocks, they're witnesses to history. So moving on, this is a really cool monument. So if anybody knows anything about Gettysburg or knows anything about the soldiers who fought at Gettysburg, this is really a unique one for me. It's the 23rd Pennsylvania Volunteers. It's Bernie's Zouaves. Now, what's really cool about the Zouaves is their uniform. All right, I'll let Lee take over here in a second to talk about that. But one of the things I really love about this particular monument, okay, is that it has this blue cross on it. Okay, that is the Corps badge, which is what Corps? First, it's 6th Corps. Okay, so it's the 6th Corps badge, but this is done in really beautiful blue tile. And I love the flag and the state flag that they put. This the Pennsylvania State, the field in there. It's the whatever the hell you call it. So that's one of the really cool things. But what else is really neat about this monument? Okay, when they were placing this monument somewhere, now if I remember correctly, they said it was underneath the backside of the monument. Buried under this monument is a time capsule that soldiers themselves were here during the placing of this monument, put tokens of the battle and of their lives in that time capsule, and it is buried underneath of this monument. So this is just a really cool monument. Zouaves, okay, what's really neat about the Zouaves is, Lee, take it over and tell them about their uniforms.
the uniforms were based off of the French. And what's really cool is, so with Pennsylvania regiments, they were allotted first when they put the monument up. They were paid for by the veterans themselves. So originally, at the top of this monument was a stack of cannonballs. So several years later, the Pennsylvania legislators said, "You know what? You guys fought hard to preserve the Union, and you fought on our home soil. So we're going to allot even more money to the Pennsylvania soldiers." So with that money, you could either build a new monument or do renovations to your existing monument. So what they did was they decided to get rid of the cannonballs and put this statue of one of their actual soldiers on top.
So this was done in the likeness of one of the actual guys who fought here.
Yes.
But we don't know which.
I'm not sure.
Off the top of our head, I don't know which one it was. Which would be interesting to find out, though, for sure. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead back over here across the street to the 30th Ohio Infantry.
29.
I'm sorry, 29th. I thought it looked like 30. My bad. My bad. I don't know everything. God.
So this is part of Candy's brigade, and the interesting thing is, the adjutant of the regiment designed this monument, and for some reason, he felt as if the commanding officer showed a little bit of cowardice in the face of the enemy. He was slightly wounded and left the battle, so he is not listed as being a part of this regiment. And because of that, they put the S backwards.
So this is one of the very unique things about Gettysburg that people don't know. Just driving by, you see a big monument, you don't realize that there's symbology, there's symbolism. Okay, symbolism all over these monuments. That backward S is very symbolic. You know, something that they would have done just to kind of hide, you know, what this a secret, you know, something to talk about. Again, just another view. We were walking up there, and that's the upper Culps Hill. As you can see way up yonder, the hill just keeps going up, up, and up. And as we walk down further this way, we're at the lower part of Culps Hill. And it actually continues over in that direction, over another little bit of a hill. A really cool story of the 2nd Maryland and their fateful charge that took place over there. Really cool part of the battlefield. I am going to probably walk over to, where was the 14th Brooklyn? That was right there, right? Okay, we're going to walk over to that.
So right here is the 137th New York, and this regiment was commanded by David Ireland. Now, when you go back and you've got Green's line extending, the 137th is the end of the line. Kind of similar story happens on the other end of the line with another famous colonel, Colonel Chamberlain. So Ireland is in the position where he's the end of the line. And what's going to happen is he's got to refuse the line and hold back even larger numbers of Confederates than what Chamberlain had to do. Chamberlain gets featured in the movie Gettysburg and gets all the attention in the world. But David Ireland, in my opinion, much better than Chamberlain.
So much better than Chamberlain, but he fought off a larger force, and that basically came faster and harder than what Chamberlain dealt with the 15th Alabama, 47th, and 45th, or whatever it was.
Yeah, Chamberlain only had a couple of regiments to fight off. Ireland had at least a whole division.
Okay, so where we are on this part of the battlefield, as Lee told you, this at one point became the end of the line. Let's talk about what's really cool here. This angle in the wall, okay, this angle right here in the breastworks, it's a very sharp 90-degree angle. And as you saw, I was talking to you up there earlier, this, I was told by a former battlefield guide, was the hottest contested spot. Would that be true? I was told this was pretty much the hottest, most contested spot on the Culps Hill battlefield. You'll see this makes a very sharp right angle. Okay, the earthworks continue right here. As you see, it's built up, and then boom, it cuts down at a right angle here. Right inside of this corner, inside here, okay, you would have found Confederates dead on top of each other, some 3, 4, 5 guys piled high, okay, trying to take this portion of the field. It was absolute carnage inside of this portion of the works right here. So just something to reflect on when you come here. And I don't know if anybody saw, I just wrote a poem, about the Battle of Gettysburg, and and it talks about some of the intensity and the scenes, the visage of war. And really, this is one of the places that you can come to on the battlefield and just kind of visualize it, because you have tangible evidence in very well preserved earthworks that you can stand here and bring a book and read the story a little bit and put yourself in the shoes of these people and what they actually faced when they were here. Now I'm going to show you something really cool here. This rock marks the line that was created. It was, how would you call this? It was oblique. I don't know.
This was the traverse.
So the traverse. So basically, from this corner where Monica's standing right now, she's standing right on the line. Okay, over to this boulder and over to that monument across the street, which is Ohio, I believe.
29th Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm a dickhead. That's 29th Pennsylvania. All right, but we're standing at the where the 14th Brooklyn was. Take a look at the top of this rock. See, they carved it in here, and they actually polished the rock to make it look so it stood out. So it's dedicated AD 1890. A very cool engraving on top of this rock. All right, so 14th Brooklyn Infantry, New York State Militia. Okay, 84th New York Volunteers. So they were basically two numbers for the same regiment.
Yeah, because the 14th Brooklyn was their pre-war militia identification. And then when they get mustered into official United States service, they are given the 84th New York status, but they pretty much ignore that designation, and everyone just refers to them as the 14th Brooklyn.
Now, what's really cool about the 14th Brooklyn, these are the guys that were present on day one when Reynolds was shot off his horse. Is that true or false?
They were in position near the McPherson barn. I don't know if they would have been near him when he got shot, because they charged into the railroad cut with the 6th Wisconsin and the 95th New York. Right. So I'm not sure about the timeline on that. I know it's represented in the movie as
right, and there's also an artist depiction. It was Dale Gallen, I think, painted it. That could be, or Mort Kunstler, one of them, painted the 14th Brooklyn, literally catching him as he's falling off his horse. So the accuracy of that, who knows?
Not sure.
But I'll read this monument to you really quick, because it explains a little bit about what happened here in Culps Hill in its entirety. So here at about 9 p.m., July 2nd, 1863, the regiment, while moving from its position to the left of this to reinforce Greene's brigade, which is where we're standing, essentially, okay, unexpectedly encountered the advance of Johnston's division of Ewell's Corps, which had crossed the abandoned works and was advancing toward the Baltimore Pike. By opening fire on them, the regiment caused them to halt until the 12th Corps recaptured and drove them back. Now, at daylight on July 3rd, okay, this is the last day of the fight, the regiment rejoined the brigade, but soon afterwards moved again to the right to reinforce the 12th Corps and fought in the trenches and lay in reserve until the repulse of the enemy. Okay, so in other words, they're talking about they fought across this open ground here as a traverse for Confederates who were walking to or fighting in this direction at this time. Okay, this is a very confusing part of this battle, because if you read any of these other monuments, they tell a different story because they're here at different times of the battle. But what the 14th Brooklyn encountered was Confederates coming up the hill in parallel to the earthworks that were built by Greene's 12th Corps. So they're moving in this direction. And that's what the 29th Pennsylvania and the 14th Brooklyn encountered here, as well as the 187th.
137th.
37th. God damn it. I'm rusty and I need water. It's hot. So
and then behind us, you've got the portrait statue of General John Geary, and that was the division commander and also very famous politician, governor of Pennsylvania, mayor of San Francisco.
wasn't he a Lancaster County man? Or Harrisburg? Was he from? He's buried in Harrisburg,
Yes.
isn't he?
Yes, buried in Harrisburg.
I got that right.
So, never dedicated, but that is portrait statue for the division commander, John Geary.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk across the street here, and we're going to show you an area that was used very heavily as a burial trench. It was a massive, massive burial trench on the back side of the hill, and I'll show you. I try to give you the best view as I can, not of Lee's back per se, but of why this area was used in particular.
This is a good representation of the shallow nature. So imagine you've got the fighting going on behind us right here along the hillside along with the breastworks. This is where your reserves would have been located. They're on the backside, they're protected. So this is where you would have the transfers. Like you come back here, you get your guns cleaned up, you got your cartridge boxes filled back up, take a little break, maybe like a half hour to an hour, depending on how intense the fighting is. I mean, 7 hours, that's a lot of fighting. And your main supply line is on the Baltimore Pike, not even a mile from here. So you've got ammunition trains just lined up, and they're just bringing ammunition boxes left and right up here to this spot so that the men could just go back and forth and continue fighting.
Right. So right in here, I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell, but this goes way down and we're standing on pretty high ground. That area right down there is probably about 15 feet below us. That big tree, uprooted tree, was probably a witness tree. It was probably here during the battle. Is an old oak. I mean, and it is big, and it's an unfortunate loss. But this area after the battle was used right in through here was a massive Union burial trench. Then those bodies were later disinterred and taken to the National Cemetery over here in Gettysburg, which is where Abraham Lincoln then would give his immortal Gettysburg address.
And then further down the line here, you've got through the tree, you can kind of see two more monuments. In front of us is the 5th Ohio, and then the next one down with the big star, that's the 147th Pennsylvania. So what's going to happen is you can't really see it from here, but there's a farm lane on top of the ridge there. And both of these regiments would take position there. And as the 1st Maryland later changed to the 2nd Maryland, so it's not confused between the 1st Maryland Eastern Shore and 1st Maryland Potomac Brigade that fought for the Union, they would charge across this field on July 3rd. And the murderous fire between the 147th, the 5th, the 29th, and the 14th Brooklyn.
Right over there.
It's just an absolute sheet of flames coming out of here. And the 147th will later charge across and take position along the wall. And that field is known as Party Field, named after the commanding officer of the 147th, Ario Party Jr.
Okay, so James said that this is where the one fellow was hit directly by a shell and ripped in two. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if it was here. I don't know where that was, but James knows a lot of those interesting stories. And one of the stories that James actually told me when we were here was a story about the 2nd Maryland after they made their charge across the ground that I'm about to walk over. I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here, but all the way across the hill on top, up there is you can see the top of a monument. That's the 2nd Maryland monument up there. Okay, and that's the one that Lee said they later changed it to the second because they didn't want to be confused with the other First Maryland Eastern Shore. Okay, that fought here as well. So we're going to walk up here, and I'm going to show you the advance marker of the Second Maryland. It's going to get loud here, guys. There's a motorcycle coming through here, so just bear with it. Really cool old Harley. Okay, so this is the advance marker of the Second Maryland and their charge that they made across this field. These guys got literally obliterated. So this says point reached by 1st Maryland Battalion, CSA, July 3rd, 1863. Okay, this is as far as they made it. They started up on top of that hill. Now, I've been told a story by James. And James, if you're still on here, chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. Put the guy's name because I don't remember the guy's name. But right about where they placed the advanced marker, the story supposedly goes there was a young Confederate private who was grievously wounded here, and he was begging to be put out of his misery. From what I understand is a Union soldier then handed him his pistol, and that Confederate soldier then took his own life. So James said he doesn't know the name. The name isn't known, but that's it. Hopefully I got that story right. But it's right about here is where that supposedly it took place. This young guy who had a grievous wound just took his own life to end his own misery. So we're going to walk up the hill here to the Second Maryland. I'm going to show you something that is a little controversial here in Gettysburg. Can't do any of this without a little bit of controversy. So there's supposedly a Confederate burial trench up here. Okay, we don't really know if this is actually a burial trench, but I'm going to show it to you. A lot of people do recognize it as a burial trench. And it's just up here to the top of the hill.
Another famous story with the 1st Maryland or 2nd Maryland is their mascot. They had a dog by the name of Gracie, or Grace. And during the battle, Gracie was out in front of the men, barking wildly. And at one point, a volley would take her down. And Colonel King, the 1 brigade commander, noted that that dog was the only true Christian on the entire battlefield at that time, and had it buried with full military honors.
The dog.
The dog.
Well, that's fascinating. Okay, we're going to make a pit stop before we head across the street here to the 2nd Maryland. One of the other things about Gettysburg that's really fascinating is the post-battle park history. And one of the things that I like to do, besides jumping off big boulders, is to point some of this really cool little detailed stuff out. We are winded because that is a steeper hill than it looks like, and we are fat and out of shape. Okay, check this rock out. See, it's very clean cut, very sharp cut this way. You can see here the drill marks. Okay, these were drilled and then used for monument bases around the park. So they quarried stone for a lot of the monument bases right here in Gettysburg. So when you have people calling me out for there not being boulders where they're supposed to be boulders, this is why. Because as you can see, more evidence of quarried stone. And you find these quarries all over the battlefield here at Gettysburg. Again, now this is an interesting piece of stone. This used to be the top of this rock where this monument is. And they just busted it off clean and pushed it off and just let it fall down behind here in this quarry. So it's just one of those really cool little post Park Service neat little things about Gettysburg that you don't really see unless you get out and get off the beaten path.
Oh, hey, 29th Pennsylvania again.
Let's talk about the 29th.
So, once again, this is Pennsylvania Regiment. So, their original monument is the small one that we were just at.
The one that I called the 30th or something?
No, the one that you called it.
Oh, Ohio. I called it Ohio. Yeah.
So that was their original monument. And then when the Pennsylvania legislature came back and said, hey, here's some extra money, you can either do work on, add on to your existing monument, or you can build a whole new one. So this was their original position. So what they did was they took that monument that was here, moved it to their secondary position, which we were just at, and put this big, tall monument as their primary.
Now, as a little side note, that eagle up there, now, again, I bear with me, I could be wrong on this, but my good friend Steve Floyd is a monument expert here at Gettysburg, and he's instrumental at getting a lot of these monuments fixed and repaired and upkept. And if I'm not mistaken, he had something to do with that eagle being restored because a tree had fallen on this monument and badly destroyed the eagle that was up there during one of the very bad storms that we had here at one time. So my good friend Steve Floyd actually was instrumental in getting that eagle replaced on top of that monument.
And not only that, but when the Park Service decided to recreate the infamous Hancock Gate over by the National Cemetery, they needed a mold because they have pictures of the original Hancock Gate and they had cast iron eagles. Well, they took this one off, used it as the mold, and put it back. So that eagle is now also featured over at the Hancock Gate by the National Cemetery.
Which a lot of people in Gettysburg, military folk, and historians and whatnot, aren't very thrilled about that gate. I think it's kind of an eyesore. I don't know, but that's my own opinion. All right, guys, so here we are at one of the very few Confederate monuments on the Gettysburg battlefield.
Not only one of the very few, but this is the very first.
This is the first Confederate monument placed on the battlefield.
Yes.
And now how many are there total? There's Texas, right? Texas has one.
Well, regimental monuments.
North Carolina.
You've got 2 to the 26th. There's the 43rd. So there's only a handful of actual Confederate regimental monuments, but this is the one that started it, and this is the one that caused the most controversy. Because if you'll notice, where we are standing,
we're completely in the middle of the Union lines. This is the Union breastworks, what's left of them. I'm literally standing on a stone in the middle of these breastworks, which I told people not to do, but you have to here.
So, at the time of the dedication, the rule was that you had to place your monument on your brigade line. So, if they were to have put this up, they would have had to put it all the way back on Benner's Hill, because that's where they started. But they said, no, this is where we attacked. This is where we want to put our monument. So, they allowed it, but right here, they had to change the wording. They originally said that they occupied the works.
Oh,
but they said it was inside.
Okay, so on the morning of July 3rd, the battalion moving by the left flank formed at right angles with and inside the works and charged under a fire in front flank and rear to a stone planted 100 yards west from this monument, which is back where we were.
Yep.
Okay, it gets a little confusing the way they wrote things back then, believe me.
Oh, here we go. This is where they changed it.
So this is where they changed it, actually. So this says Army of Northern Virginia, advancing from Rock Creek about 7 p.m. July 2nd, occupied the line of works at this point and held its position until next morning. Now, that's a little confusing, let's be honest, because we were just at the 2nd Maryland's marker where they advanced, right? Their charge came out of these works and went down over the hill, directly over the other side of the hill. So why do they say they held and occupied the line when they actually charged over that way and got their butts handed to them?
Well, see, what happens is, go back to the day 3 wording here. The battalion moved by the left flank. So, if you have occupied this position, moving by the left flank, now you are perpendicular
To the works.
And you're not charging straight ahead. You are charging directly.
Exactly. Okay,
at
so
the salient.
and that's kind of confusing, and I did see, just as a side note, I saw an artist depiction of the 2nd Maryland charge actually following that stone wall,
Yes.
with the dog in the photograph. You know what I'm talking about?
That's Mort Kunstler.
More coincident. Is that actually more accurate? Does that accurately depict the charge?
I think so.
So what we should do is go over there. If maybe you could pull that picture up on your phone, we'll go over to the wall and we'll show that to them. But while we're standing here, we're going to show you guys this controversial Confederate burial trench. Now, there are historians on the battlefield here who do not buy into this actually being a Confederate burial trench. And for years, there were Confederate flags posted here. But if you can see where I'm standing, this depression in the ground right here, I'm not sure, the shadows make it hard to see. I'm not sure if you can kind of make out the terrain on the camera, but the trench basically started like here and went right over here to this little tree. You can kind of see there's a depression. Are you guys able to see that? Yeah, Monica, if you feel like it, you can come back around. Actually, don't worry about it because it's one way and I don't know how to tell you to get back here. How you doing, Patricia? It's good to see you. So thank you guys all so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you can, give the video a share. We'll get this out there and let's get some Gettysburg knowledge out there. She was buried in the valley by the 29th PA monument. I think James said the dog was buried by the 29th PA monument. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so this is the supposed and controversial Confederate burial trench. Now it's possible, but the question is being that the entire Union line is right here, Confederates didn't hold the ground, so would they have buried their dead this close to the line? I mean, Union soldiers would bury Confederate soldiers, but it would be long after they buried their own first. So it's kind of questionable. Is this a burial trench? Isn't it? I don't know. We don't know for sure, but it certainly looks like it. It does fit the characteristics. It's got the right size. I mean, and you could definitely put a lot of bodies in there. So it's definitely possible. Okay, bud. So let's go over across the street and show them where the 2nd Maryland actually did charge perpendicular to the lines. And see if we can pull up this photograph for you guys to see it. Now, anybody watching right now, if there's something that you want to see, and unfortunately, Taryn, I can't stay long enough today to get the sunset for you. I am terribly sorry about that. I have to be home and in bed by the time that sun is setting here in Gettysburg. So we're going to walk back down here. There's a witness tree right there, this big witness tree across the way by a stone wall. Did you find the painting?
I can't find it.
Well, hopefully we can find it. Do a Google search, folks. The charge of the 2nd Maryland at Gettysburg. And maybe you'll pull it up. It's a painting. But it's a very well done painting. And it actually, the reason I really wanted you to see it, because one of the best ways to experience the battlefield at Gettysburg is by looking at the photographs. And anybody who knows me knows that I do a ton of photograph work here at Gettysburg. It's just a passion of mine. I enjoy it. I like driving by and saying, oh, there it is. I found it. without doing any research and putting that is in fact not true. I do a lot of research and I put a lot of time. I'm very passionate about getting it right. If it's not right, I'll say it's not right. Okay, you did find the picture? So we're going to tramp through this high ground, this high weeds. We're going to get ticks. By the way, if you do ever come out to Gettysburg, be sure to cover yourself with tick spray because you are going to be covered with ticks. It's a fact. Just prepare yourself for it. This stone wall and this tree, this big, beautiful tree, was here during the battle. Now I'm going to show you the charge here of the 2nd Maryland. There's all kinds of lines in your phone that make it very hard to, that's weird. I don't know, can you guys see this or not? But this charge of the 2nd Maryland, this is not the picture that I was looking at. It actually shows the dog running down.
The dog's right there.
There's the dog. But where's the wall? You can't see the wall in this picture. The one that I'm talking about, you can literally see this stone wall. And they're running down this direction in that way, that down there. So it's a really cool. But one of the things, guys, that's really cool is come out here with photographs, okay? Hey, Facebook user, I'm not sure who you are, but I'm glad you were able to see that. I'm going to go ahead for just a second here, and we're going to flip this sucker. Okay. All right, so got me here. It's so cool to come out here, okay, with a photograph book. And you know, Frazanito did a great job, you know, going and printing a bunch of then and now photographs, you know, of 1860s photographs taken by Matthew Brady, Alex Gardner, Timothy O'Sullivan, James Gibson, and others. Okay, Tipton's did a lot of photograph work out here post battle, and grab a hold of a book and come out here and experience the battlefield using photographs, because it is incredible what you can see in those photographs. And it's a transport through time. I mean, it is as close as you can get to actually having a time machine. This is the one I'm talking about. Now let's get in the shade here, and I'm going to show you this photograph. Lee did find the painting I'm talking about, and this will give you a really cool visual of what took place right here in this spot where I'm standing. So again, give me a second. I'm going to flip this camera back around. This is so StreamYard. If you're watching, please make this easier. All right, rear. Okay. Yes, this is the one I am talking about. All right, let's see if we can make it clear. Do you guys see? Point to the stone wall. Can you guys see the stone wall? And
right
there's the dog. Wait, point it out. There's the dog right there, running down the hill. If you can see this, guys, I hope you can see it. It's really hard for me to see. There's really no good place to do this. But this is the stone wall. And they show the 2nd Maryland charging down over the hill in from that back direction back there down the hill here. So tell them where they can find that photograph so they can actually look for it themselves.
So this painting was actually done by Peter Rothermel, and it is in the State Museum in Harrisburg.
Peter Roth, it's in Harrisburg?
Yes.
We need to go to Harrisburg. So, all right, so you can see it clearly good. I appreciate that.
And
did you just hear Mr. Dustin? Who is, okay, first of all, if you're going to be Mr. Facebook or Mrs. Facebook user, don't be calling me out for Mr. Dustin stuff. We're not here to talk about decks today. All right, we're here to talk about Gettysburg.
In front of us, you can see the large boulder with the little bronze medallion. That is to the 5th Ohio, and that marks the spot where the Spangler Farm Lane would be running back down towards the Baltimore Pike where the Spangler Farm is. Mm-hmm. That is the avenue that the troops are taking both to get here and to leave here when they go out to help out in the peach orchard. So they will come up this road and try to file back into the earthworks that they had previously occupied, and now they're full of Confederates. So that's as far as they can get. And the 147th Pennsylvania, you will note that the woods here are full of Rebs. So this is where the first round will charge down. The large stern in the field here, that is the marker for Party Field that we mentioned earlier.
Now, on the other side of that, there's a big engraving on that, very big letters that says Party Field. It's huge. It's a really neat engraving. It was done professionally.
Yeah.
So, guys, we are going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for today here at Culps Hill. Perhaps we're going to jump off of Culps Hill a little bit later. Anybody watching, if there's a place you want me to do another video from, I don't care where it is, the wheat field. This guy's very knowledgeable on the wheat field. I am too, and we could also do a little bit of the upper Devil's Den. We can't get one Devil's Den right now; it's closed. Happy to do a little round top. If you have a suggestion, put it up here, and I'll go do a video because this is what I love to do. So, okay, so you're posting pictures on the page as you go, so everyone can see them better. Awesome, I appreciate that. All right. We got a request for the peach orchard, so we could go talk about the peach orchard for a little bit. Talk about sickles, and we'll talk about Third Corps being out there when they shouldn't have been. And we could also talk about how the Park Service even came into fruition and how that all ties together. So come back in a little bit, guys. We're going to we'll do a video from the peach orchard and the Third Corps position out there, and hey, farm stuff. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. I appreciate you. Please go to BB3 TV and like and follow us over there. There's a ton of variety entertainment over there, gamers, paranormal stuff. There's a Sunday sermon that happens. It's a great show, guys. Please like and follow us over there at BB3 TV. Also go to Off the Cuff with Dustin Heisey. And like and follow me over there, guys. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Oh, and before you go, one of the cool things here at Gettysburg is you got to be on top of one of these really cool, where is it? Battlefield tour buses where everybody's on top and getting the cool show from the top of the bus. That's one of the cool things to do here at Gettysburg. So if you haven't done it, it's fun to do. Just one of those really neat little things. But come back in a little bit, guys, and we'll do a live video from the peach orchard. Please, again, like and share. Follow us over at BB3 TV. Off the Cuff with Dustin Heisey, guys. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.